right. Welcome back to another week of Blitz Creek. It's week 6 of high school football. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. We're halfway through for most teams and almost halfway through for others. And some of them are like way more than halfway through because they started in week 0.
Week 0. So I was like, am I writing this down right? But last podcast is week 5. So either I'm wrong or we're right. I think we're right.
I think we're right. I think we are right.
So we'd like to thank you for coming back, whether that's on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Thank you. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please do. Also, leave a comment. That helps with the algorithm, and we really appreciate that. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Appa Bagworks. Again, he makes some really nice custom leather. Right now, he's just in the wristlet business. He makes some wallets for guys as well. But the wristlets are really nice. I know my wife enjoys hers. So if you want to see one, go up to Bohemian Gray on Main Street. You can check it out, feel it. He's got some fall ones coming up. I think it has a flower print in it. Let's go check it out. If you need an attorney, so whether that's criminal, he probably could answer some questions about civil, but really criminal in general district and circuit court, if you need an attorney for that, call Andrew Scruggs, attorney out of Bluefield. He works in the Virginia area right now. So if you're listening in Dickinson, he does in Washington County, Russell County, Dickinson County, Buchanan County, and Tazewell County. So he can reach you wherever you are as long as you're in the state of Virginia. We also like to give a big shout out to our big sponsor, the one we're the most proud of because he's better than you. That's Old Town Barbershop. Shout out to Corey, who's still waiting on his next person to come. We know who that is. We ain't going to say who it is, but we understand why he's late.
By the way, that belt is big enough even for my belly. So, we're really proud to be here at Old Town Barbershop, and we're really thankful to Corey for everything that he does for us.
That's right. All right, Josh, any hot takes from last week?
Well, I think some of the hot takes that I had kind of across Virginia, I'll kind of do it across Virginia as opposed to just in our area, was Thomas Jefferson out of Richmond really kind of put it on some people in the last couple of weeks, and they're making a big push in 2A. Don't let that fall.
Yeah, we can't mess up the belt.
Yeah, we can't mess up the belt. If you mess up the belt, I'm gonna step off screen.
I don't want to be the one messing it up.
And let Corey walk onto screen. But I think Thomas Jefferson, they're in a race with Armstrong on the other side of the state. Got to take Riverheads out of the equation. They're single A, and I feel like there's kind of a collision course with quite possibly someone from the Mountain 7, maybe the Southwest, and then Armstrong and TJ on the other side of the state that are looking really strong right now. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
All right. So that's some of the hot takes. Let's move into this week's schedule. And we're going to start with a team that we normally know fairly well. That's the Tazewell Bulldogs, who are 0-4, going to take on Virginia High in Bristol, who's 5-1.
Right, so 5-1. Virginia High is going to play host to Tazewell this Friday night in Bristol at DeVault Stadium. I mean, we can talk about stats and not stats.
Right.
We can talk about a lot of things. Last year's game was a blowout win for Virginia High, in which Tazewell could not match their speed whatsoever. Tazewell couldn't stop Virginia High, and then on the other side, really couldn't get the ball rolling. And that was with a Tazewell offense that scored points at times.
Mm-hmm.
It scored a lot of points at times. In some games, they didn't. I mean, it's kind of hit or miss last year. But at the same time, Tazewell had an offense that was pretty potent and could put points on the board if they needed to. This is a tale of two stories with Virginia High and Tazewell. Virginia High is surging right now. They've got one loss to a Tennessee High team that has surprised a lot of teams on this side of the line in Virginia. I haven't even traveled down to Tennessee High and got spanked pretty good. So, the one loss that Virginia High had, they didn't play very well. I think the situation got a little too big for them. Mm-hmm. And Tennessee High playing the 5A, 6A schedule in Tennessee that they normally play didn't allow that to happen. The lights weren't too big for them, and Virginia High was kind of overwhelmed in the second half by a Tennessee High team that had a whole lot of depth, mainly because they're about 3 times, almost 4 times the size of Virginia High. So there is a little bit of that to play, even though I did pick Virginia High to win that game.
I think we both did.
But Tazewell, on the other hand, Tazewell hadn't scored more than 13 points this year. And in some of those games where they have scored points, one, it's special teams. So I guess you can say, that's not even the offense scoring.
Right.
Or the defense has scored. So this is going to be a tough game for the Dogs, traveling down 19 and onto 81 for about an hour and 30-minute bus ride, hour and 40-minute bus ride to Virginia High. Like I said, I don't think there's some statistical reason for me to pick Tazewell. I think this is more about how do you pick the spread in this game. I think Virginia High wins big, 47, Tazewell 13.
So with everything you said, Tazewell and V-High both share a common opponent right now, and that common opponent's Grayson County.
Right.
So Tazewell played Grayson in Tazewell. No hiccups, no problems in that game. I mean, maybe some flags and some fumbles and some interceptions.
Which is a whole nother problem for Tazewell.
Right. But that game was 45-3. Then VI travels over to Grayson County, plays on Friday night, and that was what, 7-6?
7-6, I think, and they were postponed in the second quarter.
For Thunder and Lightning. So they go back to Grayson County on Monday night and win that game 27-26. So on paper, you look at that and they're fairly even, and that doesn't look good for the Dogs.
No, it doesn't. And the fact that they're fairly even kind of gives you like maybe what the outcome of the score might be.
Right.
The difference is Grayson goes to Tazewell. Maybe that matters a little bit. And Tazewell's traveling to Virginia High. Maybe that matters a little bit because you get home field, away field. But,
So the only thing different here is there could be a shakeup on the offense come Friday night, from what I'm hearing. I don't want to put it out there in case somebody from VHI, because I know we have Bristol listeners, and I don't want to give the coaching staff a chance to be able to be like, ooh, we need to change something. But there could be a change on the offensive side, but I don't think that matters. I still think there's a learning curve to be had, and right now Tazewell's still trying to learn that learning curve. So my pick on this game is the Bearcats continue to roll to victory with a 42-6 win over the Dogs.
I think that's basically about what I've got. I think Virginia High can probably score. The only thing that's going for Tazewell right now is, one, they scored 13 points last week, which is more than what they've scored up to this point, and the fact that Virginia High had to go back to Independence to play on Monday night, which means maybe they take it a little bit easy on a Tuesday, so they get a Wednesday and a Thursday to actually practice and prepare for Tazewell, which is not the same preparation that they've had before, so they can't really go back and watch old film on Tazewell and have a feel for what Tazewell does. They've got to get as much film as they possibly can, in the 4 games that Tazewell's played, if they can get all 4 games, and then try to base their analytics off of that, or even go back to maybe, finding the PH games that they used to play the past few years where they've had Coach Padgett on film, and go back to those notes and try to build a game plan around that. But realistically, they're only going to have 2, maybe 2.5 days worth of practice going into the Tazewell game. And maybe they take them lightly. I don't know. You would like to think that you'd see the opportunity in front of you to play well in the first half and kind of knock it out of the water, boat race Tazewell early and go looking for dinner. But that doesn't always happen. So maybe there's something going on there.
So we hope things turn around on our end for the Dogs, but we'll see on Friday night. Now, in Richlands, the Grundy Golden Wave at 1-4, their only win coming to Twin Valley at 44-8. Takes on the Richlands Blue Tornado, who are 2-3, with those wins being Lee at 42-14 and Abingdon 48-24. That one came a big surprise to us.
Oh, absolutely. That was a huge surprise.
But, I mean, Rye Cove goes into Grundy and wins 61-14. Ridgeview 64-20. And Homeacre was a 66-16 win. Richlands is not as good as Rye Cove or Ridgeview, but maybe be able to be competitive with Homeacre. So, with all that being said, Lebanon beats Richlands, Abingdon beats them, Vihad beats them. Those are speedy teams, very competitive. We have those in the top three. I don't know if we'll have Abingdon in the top three of the Mountain 7 now, but Richlands is playing good football right now. With all that being said, 35-12 Richlands.
Well, I think you're giving maybe Grundy more credit, or Richlands maybe not enough. I'm going to give Richlands a whole lot of credit. Grundy is going to make the actual regular season trip up to Richlands, up 460, for the first time in a while, in what will be a preview of a district game next year. Yes. Because Grundy will combine with everyone and become a 2A school and fall into the Southwest District. Richlands is 2-3, but I feel like that's a weird 2-3.
I agree.
I think that's a better 2-3. They're by far the best 2-3 team in Southwest Virginia. I thought it was strange that Richlands couldn't keep pace with Lebanon early on, given the fact that Rural Retreat was able to keep pace with Lebanon, and then Lebanon walked away with it in the end. Lebanon put it on him early, and I really thought Richlands' offense that has shown that it can score some points. I mean, when you look at Richlands, they beat Lee 42-14, and then they put 48 on the board against Abingdon, and I really thought that they were going to put points on the board against Lebanon, and they just weren't able to get that done. They actually played better in the second half than they did in the first half against a Lebanon team that usually plays way better in the second half.
Right.
So it's kind of a strange occurrence last week with Lebanon. I was a little bit disappointed that Richlands didn't play as well as they could have. On the other hand, Grundy is bad. Grundy is really bad.
I agree, yeah.
I mean, Grundy's fallen into that J.I. Burton range right now. And granted, Grundy's playing, good teams. I mean, Giles is a good football team. Rye Cove is a good football team. The Ridge is a good football team. Honeacre, maybe not a good football team, but I think that if Richlands and Honeacre play, I think Richlands walks them.
Yeah.
And I think Richlands will get back to scoring this week, which has kind of been their MO, all season long. They put 21 points on the board against Virginia High in a game that was like nip and tuck, a couple tackles here, a tackle there, and Richlands is in that ball game, and they're actually leading late. They're leading in the second half. What was it, 28-18 in the second half? And I think that this is a chance for Richlands to, one, get their defense right.
Yes.
And two, get scoring again. So I like Richlands in a big way, 49-12.
All right. We have one crossover game this week. Let's just go ahead and reintroduce at this time. If you need an attorney, make sure you call Andrew Scruggs, Bluefield, Virginia. He'll help you with any criminal needs you have. With that being said, this could be a criminal game because the Lebanon Pioneers are taking on, they're 5-0. They're taking on the 1-4 John Battle Trojans. No, I messed this whole thing up, but that's okay. We're going to walk this back and I'll bring it back to you again.
I think it's going to be criminal either way, no matter which game we talk about.
I agree 100%. So just keep that sponsor in mind. We'll bring that crossover in just a second. This is why I never took notes when I was public speaking. the Marion Scarlet Hurricane. This is the last game in the Southwest District. That's why we're coming back to it real quick. The Marion Scarlet Hurricane at 0-4 are going to play the first regular season game that will be held for the Graham G-men on their new field, who are 1-3. But this game could be a turn of events for the Graham G-men to find their footing.
Yeah, so in my notes, you kind of took my thunder. I was like, Marion is going to go round the mountain. They're not going to come across the mountain. They're going to go around the mountain, take the long way around to play Graham on their new field in their new stadium.
That's right.
A stadium in Virginia paid for by taxpayers in Virginia. Graham is 1-3 for the first time since the Obama administration.
Oh, okay.
which used to not be that long ago, but now it's getting further and further away. But nothing says get right and get right fast than the Marion Scarlet Hurricanes right now.
That's right.
And Graham needs to get right and get right fast. They need to get right because there are bigger games looming on their schedule, i.e. Lebanon, Virginia High. And right now, Graham they need a game that they lost in the Galax forfeit. So Galax had to forfeit against Graham, and that really didn't afford Graham the opportunity to get right, get the kinks out. They lose to a Bluefield squad that they didn't want to lose to. It's their arch nemesis, their arch rival in the the biggest game for them in the season. They have to forfeit. They have to kind of stew in that for 2 weeks instead of kind of getting that out of their system. Then they play Union in Tazewell in their first kind of quasi-home game and get beat by Union 28-7, where Union really just kind of gives them a stiff worm in the first half and kind of keeps them at arm's length, there on out, and kind of walks away with it in the second half. And then they have an open date. Then they have to play Princeton.
Yes.
The number one team rated by Metro News in 3A in the state of West Virginia, and lose handily. I mean, I think it was closer than what I thought it would be, but not what I put down as a score.
Right.
It was actually really close to the score that I thought it was going to be. I think I said something like 36-14 or 36-12, and it was 33-14. But Graham is 1-3, and they just haven't been able to play a game where they just get right. I mean, we're talking about the Grundy Richlands game. It's a get right game. It's, Virginia High Tazewell. It's kind of a chance for Virginia High to really flex some muscle early on, get some other guys some playing time. Graham hasn't had that opportunity. This is Graham's opportunity. It's going to be played on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Now, I know I think it's 1 o'clock.
It is at 1 o'clock.
I think there's a lot of people that are going to be going to a Virginia Tech game that's watching a Virginia Tech team that's kind of got a whole new lease on life after firing their coach, 1-2 in a row. So I'm not sure if the crowd will be big. Marion's certainly not going to take a bunch of people. But this is a chance for Graham to fix the kinks that they haven't been able to fix against another team. I like Graham big, 47-6.
So you said you don't know if there'll be a big crowd there because of the Virginia Tech game. I don't know who Tech plays this week.
Wake Forest. It's homecoming.
Okay, yeah. So scratch that out the door. This is the first game being held at this field. This will be a packed-out crowd, in my opinion, for the Graham G-men. People want to be there. This is history being made. It's the first game of the season there. They're playing Marion, which is going to be a win for them. You got Palmer at quarterback. You've got Palmer at running back, the two brothers now. Palmer is starting to look better at quarterback because he's starting to get some reps there.
Yeah.
He made some good throws in the last game against Princeton, but it just wasn't enough. In my opinion, in that Princeton game, the fumble on the 1-yard line that looked like Graham recovered was the turning point because that was 14-7. It would have been 14-14. I mean, 50-6 is what Princeton boat raced Bluefield by, and then Graham was able to go to Princeton and make it look decent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Graham is finding their footing. They're getting back to where they need to be in the Southwest District to compete against Union again in the Mountain 7. Maybe it'll be Union. We'll talk about that here at the end of the podcast.
Sure.
But Marion, I mean, they lost to Holston. They lose to Wise 19-7. Lebanon boat raced them 53-22. And then Gate City handled business 41-13. Graham does the same thing. I got this 45-0 G-Man.
Either way, criminal.
Now, crossover. Remember our plug, Andrew Scruggs, attorney at law. The Lebanon Pioneers will travel the 30 minutes into Bristol to take on John Battle. Now, Lebanon 5-0, John Battle's 1-4. Lebanon's played some really good competition, but the competition that wasn't really good, they handled that competition as well. But with Royal Retreat, that was the big surprise because at halftime, it was a really close game.
It was close.
But they pulled away there at the end. Battles, there's nothing to test them at all on the defensive side. There's not much to talk about in this. I mean, Abingdon was 62-13. Going into the fourth, it was an okay score. But other than that, it hasn't been Lebanon big because they're not holding back on anybody if they can because 42 points, 64, 53, 42, and 49. Continue that 60-6.
Yeah, so Battle's so disappointing. Lebanon's going to make a trip down to Bristol, their first trip down to Bristol, because they'll make another one later in the season in a really big game that may end up being a game of the week for us. And they're going to take on a disappointing Battle team. So Battle follows up a win at Wise where they come back in the fourth quarter. They kind of parlayed a really good second half against the Holston team that was game against them. They parlayed that into a win at Wise, and they get to go play Patrick Henry, who hadn't put together a solid game, and in a win scored more than 15 points. They beat J.I. Burton 15-8 at Burton. And then somehow or another, Patrick Henry puts up 61 points on Battle. Abingdon put up 62, but Abingdon's 3A. Patrick Henry puts up 61. They're single A, and they're not a good single A football team.
They're not Grayson County or Dry Cove.
No, they're nowhere close to that. They're not Royal Retreat.
No.
For that matter, they're not Chilhowie. So Battle's just extremely disappointing. The fact that they had an opportunity to play a PH team, because this game is not a game that Battle can compete in my opinion. So they needed to win games that they're supposed to win.
Yeah.
And I really thought that the PH game was a game that they could have won. So just a really disappointing outcome in that game. And it just doesn't bode well for a Lebanon team that scored 42 points last week and brought their average down by almost 2 points. They're averaging over 51 points a game. And Battle just gave up 61. So, maybe that's something going for Battle, because Lebanon didn't look as sharp in the second half when they've been a second half team all year long. But realistically, this game's over at halftime. I like Lebanon 62, Battle 12.
So we didn't go over any of these scores real quick. So when they're that close,
extremely criminal.
Yeah.
And really close on our end. So
I feel like if you're watching us on YouTube, like when I look down, I'm hiding my mic with my beard. If you're listening to us, you don't get to enjoy that. Sorry.
I think it looks really good because got a little chest hair action going on there, trying to do the same.
Looks good, Josh.
Thank you.
Now, as we've said in some of our earlier podcasts, Wise isn't playing, and it's not a bye week because it's not a tournament. It's open. So
right, they're open, they're idle.
Yes.
They're not playing, but they're definitely not getting a bye.
Not a bye. It's just an open week. Graham would have got a bye with that forfeit.
Yes.
So
that's a bye week.
Yeah. Now, we move into the Mountain 7, where we don't really know some of these teams, but all of these scores could be really bad.
It could be painful.
Until we get to the game of the week.
Yes, maybe close in one of them. So the Ridge is going to run across the state line into Kentucky and take on a Paintsville Tigers team that is single A, but they're a good little single A football team, and perennially pretty good. I think they're 5-1, and basically their only loss is to a AAA Russell high school football team that beat them 41-0. But sometimes in Kentucky, you get these districts where they've got 3As and single A's, and they're just kind of grouped together. So not a complete surprise in that game, because the other games that they've played have been fairly competitive, and they've won the rest of them. They're 5-1. The Ridge, however, they score points, and they score points in bunches, and they're not going to take it easy on anyone. I think it's interesting to know that realistically, I felt like they did kind of take it easy on Lee, only scoring 47 because they've averaged in the 50s for the most part. But I think the averages kind of run their course in this one. Ridgeview is a really good football team, and no matter how good Paintsville is, they're running into a football team that is knocking on all cylinders. Their defense is playing well. I mean, the most they've given up is 20 points to a Grundy team that kind of tacked on some late touchdowns. I mean, it's that final score was 64-20. So I don't feel like Ridgeview is going to miss a step here. Mm-hmm. I think they kind of hold par. They play par football here. I like Ridgeview. I think Paintsville will score some points, but I like Ridgeview 46, Paintsville 20.
Yeah, saying Paintsville's 5-1, Ridgeview's 4-0. And I would like to compare Paintsville to Lee, because Lee's a 2A school. They play really well against single A schools, but when it comes up to competition, that's when it gets really tough for them. Mm-hmm. And we kind of saw that with Paintsville, because they beat Frankfort. We don't really know these teams, but they beat them 50-6. They beat another team 14-0, and then 36-14. So they can put up points against their own. But I think Ridgeview right now is just too much. We still haven't seen them really play a really good 2A school on our side. But that's going to happen soon. But I like them in this game 52-6.
Yeah, Ridgeview hasn't really been tested, but they're a good football team.
Oh, yes.
And they take care of business when they have to take care of business. I mean, they haven't been messing around with anyone on their schedule. They beat Lee 47-3. They beat Wise 48-14. Beat Honaker 42-0. I mean, they kind of do what they're supposed to do against teams that they're supposed to beat.
And that's a Honaker team. They put 42-0 on them, and going into the fourth quarter until their wide receiver went down, they were toe-to-toe with the Pioneers.
Right.
So, all right. Now let's travel from Kentucky and go into Tennessee. But Abington's kind of going to have to backtrack into Tennessee, not going the normal way we think, because they're going to take on Johnson County. Now, the Falcons are 2-3. Johnson County's 3-3. And if you've never been to that school, it's a weird setup. You go down into a hole, and then you go up the hill to where all three schools are. And they're the Longhorns. They're Texas kind of Longhorn looks, but they're not that color. They're maroon and silver.
Maroon, silver, and white.
Yeah. So there's your intake into what that team looks like. Now, we know all about Abington. 2-3. They beat Christiansburg and beat Battle. But Johnson County, they beat a team that I like, don't know nothing about them, called Chucky Doak, and they beat Claiborne. But other than that, and they beat Sullivan East. Other than that, they've got some losses, and that was a 36-20 loss to Hampton and a 44-10 loss against South Green. But Abington, here, they got 3 straight losses.
Yeah.
So, to me, this is a bounce-back game for Abington, a 3A school. What's Johnson County? They're small school, right?
They're small school.
So small school there. I think Abingdon handles business here. They get right. But before I say my score, their quarterback did get injured, correct? So they don't have their starting quarterback. I don't think that matters. 35-12 Falcons.
So we talked about Richlands. They're 2-3.
Yes.
Do you feel like the Richlands 2-3 is the same as the Abingdon 2-3?
No, Richlands is the better team.
By far. Like, Abingdon's 2-3 is a bad 2-3. I feel like they haven't played well. They've given up a lot of points. They haven't scored points. And early on in the season, and Abingdon's not known for scoring points.
Right.
They're kind of known for being methodical and moving the ball, running the ball, downhill in an I formation or a solo formation with a tight end, and just kind of pounding you physically, playing good, solid defense, and they've done none of that over the last 3 weeks. Johnson County, they're 3-3. They've played some close games against teams that they should play closely with. The one game that kind of bothers me a little bit is Hampton. Hampton's good, but Hampton's also a school that was ravaged last year by Hurricane Helene.
Okay.
And they weren't even actually able to finish their season out last year. And they were really good, but I wasn't sure what they were bringing back. And sometimes with smaller schools, you kind of hit like a swath of really good players, and you have a good run, and then it's kind of over with. So, I think this isn't a get-right game for Abingdon. I think this is going to be a hard-fought dogfight for Abingdon. I don't like the way Abingdon's been playing. I don't like the fact that their defense has given up points, and they've struggled to score points. And I really don't like the fact that they don't score any more points than Virginia High does against Tennessee High. And I'm just not sold on Abingdon. I was earlier in the season, and I said, prove me wrong, and they have. I don't think that Abingdon plays well if they turn the ball over or they just can't move the ball. This is going to be a dogfight, but I'll take Abingdon 26, Johnson County 21.
All right, so now we go from Tennessee and we head almost back into Kentucky. So I've been asking for a hat, still haven't got it, but we'll see what happens. So Lee will travel to Rye Cove. Lee is a 1-3 team where they're going to take the Eagles, who are 4-0.
Right, so Lee's going to make the trip around the mountain and then down into Rye Cove to see if they can get a huge win. That's going to be massive amounts of bonus points because we both think that Rye Cove is going to go 9-1, 10-0, whatever they're going to go, which would be massive bonus points for a Lee team that is trying to maybe secure a backdoor into the playoffs and grab that last spot, which they've done the past few years, mainly last year because of Rye Cove and their win against Rye Cove last year.
Right.
I think Rye Cove has other plans. Rye Cove is doing the same thing that they did last year. They score a ton of points, and the best part about the last couple of weeks is their defense hasn't surrendered a point. Now, they played Twin Valley and they played Castlewood, which is not going to be Lee.
Right.
But you've got to take that confidence going into a game. Now, the difference, I think, last year was the fact that Rye Cove had to travel to Five Star Stadium in Ben-Hur to take on Lee, and I think that was the difference in the ball game. But I do think that Lee plays well against teams that are smaller than it.
Yes.
They always play well against the single A teams on this side of the line in Virginia and on the other side of the line in Kentucky. Rock Cove averages a ton of points. Lee gives up a ton of points. Lee doesn't score a lot of points. Rock Cove hasn't given up any points. It's a different ball game this year. Rock Cove 34, Lehigh 21.
Yeah, the Eagles, everybody said after last season they were going to fall down, they were going to fall off, they weren't going to be as good. They scrimmaged Lord Botetourt at Emory and Henry and held their own in the first 2 quarters. So that means Rock Cove's still a pretty good ball club.
Absolutely.
I haven't looked at Lord Botetourt's schedule, but I think they're middle of the road right now. I still don't care. That's a 3A, 4A school.
It's a 3A school.
Taking on Rock Cove. So,
and a good 3A.
Yeah. I mean, Lee, I kind of compare him to Battle. I feel bad for him. I want him to do good. But that's not going to happen here. I mean,
you mean you want Rock Cove to win?
Oh yeah, I want Rock Cove to win this one. 28-17, go Eagles.
Absolutely.
Now, from there, I think that's all we got to talk about. There's no other games that matter.
Are you sure?
All right.
Let me check my notes. No, I'm good.
Game of the week, brought to you by Old Town Barbershop. We have the Gate City Blue Devils, who are a really good 4-1 ball club, traveling to Bullitt Park to take on the Union Bears, who are 5-0. Now, when we say a really good ball club, there's only one loss, and that's to Dobbins Bennett. But that was an 8-point loss. And as Josh always hypes up, they're the biggest school in Tennessee. That's a hard win when you go to Dobbins Bennett. And that was 28-20. Other than that, they've held their own with David Crockett, 47-6. It's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, Davey was in here earlier, so.
He was. I thought he was here to collect.
Then Marion was a 41-13 win. From there, the Richlands game, 49-28. That showed how good Richlands could be. There was a couple of turnovers that cost the Blue Tornado. I about said Blue Devils, but the Blue Tornado. But they're playing really good football. The thing that we don't see with Union, their pass game. They've been working on it against teams that they should be beating. The run game's there. They saw that in the Graham game. They got 2 huge beasts. We know Chandler, but the backup is 5'9", 215. He's the same size as Chandler. And he's a sophomore. So if they don't have him in, they've got a run game. They're still trying to work on that pass game. And they've done it against Tazewell, 49-7. One of their wideouts had 3 touchdowns. With Wise, same thing. Wideouts had the touchdowns, and they still used the run game, but it wasn't as much as they had to in the Graham game. Mm-hmm. So with Graham 28-7, but Graham just wasn't able to move the ball. They were still trying to figure out the passing offense, which we think they kind of have with Princeton. They beat Daniel Boone 62-6, and then Lee 49-14. I don't know what Josh has, and I haven't looked at his notes, but Union is still trying to figure out a pass game. But Gate City has a pass game, and they have a run game. I know everybody on here is going on to say it's a game of the week, and Union goes on to prevail. Not so fast, my friend. I like the Blue Devils in this one. 28-24, upset alert at Bullitt Park.
All right, so I'll just kind of pound my notes here. So this is the real deal. This is Bullet Ball versus Legends. Gate City's rolling, and Union's played par football the way they should have and taking care of business against teams that they should have while showing up in Tazewell to take on a Graham team that they kept at arm's length the entire time and just really physically beat Graham at the line of scrimmage, which that hasn't happened very often. And like I said, with Graham, they're 1-3 for the first time since the Obama administration. There's a 3-way kind of test going on in the Mountain 7. And that's Ridgeview, Union, and Gate City. But this is huge in 2 ways. One, can Gate City kind of stake their claim to Southwest Virginia and really enter that top tier. They've kind of been middle tier, and they've been inching towards, being a good football team. But this is a game that can take them to the next level. Or does Union stake their claim to the top of Southwest Virginia, given the fact that their nemesis Graham has been given its kryptonite and is sitting at 1-3? It would be tough for me to believe that Union would pass up the opportunity, given that Graham is down, when the only team that stopped them from getting to the state playoffs and getting to a state championship game has been Graham. Why would they now let the newcomer, Gate City, who hasn't been there in quite a while, step in and stake their claim to that spot? Let's talk about the keys to victory. So this is a reoccurring theme for me throughout the year. Score early points. I think this is a bigger key for Gate City than it is for Union. Mainly because Gate City's playing on the road, and if you can get some of that confidence and score some, an early touchdown in the first quarter, take a 7-0 lead, and play with that lead, have the ability to play with that lead, can relax you a little bit in a game that is as hype as there's going to be a game this year in Southwest Virginia up to this point, and maybe throughout the entire year.
We'll see what happens this week, because next week's game could be the bigger game.
Could be the bigger game, absolutely. I think for Union, if they can score points early, they can kind of break Gate City.
Yes.
They can allow the pressure to get to Gate City, because Gate City hadn't lived in that kind of realm the way Union has the past 4 or 5 years with Graham. And not to say that Union's been able to handle it either, because you get to the region championship game and Union has faltered to Graham even after beating them in the regular season.
Correct.
So, but I think if you can go up 7-0 or be 14-0, 14-7 going into the second quarter or in the second quarter, I think you can put so much pressure on the other team from Union's standpoint that they can crack. The second key to victory is special teams.
Mm-hmm.
There's hidden yardage in the special teams play in this game. There's also momentous plays that can be made. And there's plays in the kicking game and in the return game that can, change the momentum, swing it back in your direction, or create a snowball effect where the other team can't recover. You can look at fake punts and, penalties on punts that allow the other team to pick up a first down, but special teams play is going to be key. And then the third one, which is key realistically for any game, General Nealon always said, the team that makes the fewest mistakes will win. You can't shoot yourself in the foot in a big game. You can't have bad turnovers.
No.
You can't have a turnover, going in to score. If you do have a turnover, it's hard to have a neutral turnover where you throw a long pick and it's just like a long punt on third down. You got to stay away from those bad turnovers, and you got to stay away from those penalties that just absolutely kill drives or keep drives going. Gate City's been tested 100%. And they've met those challenges, and they've passed those, in my opinion, with flying colors. I mean, the fact that they went down to Kingsport and played Dobbins-Bennett, the biggest school in the state of Tennessee, in the big stadium there in Kingsport, and really fought them toe-to-toe for 4 quarters, tells me a lot about Gate City. Union's rolled up to Tazewell and faced their biggest test and kind of stiff-armed Graham and kept them at arm's length the entire time and dominated the line of scrimmage. I expect Union to do the same Friday night. I expect them to dominate the line of scrimmage. I think they've looked the part. And if you want to be the man, you have to beat the man. That's why I've got Union 28, Gate City 34.
Oh, snap. I'm telling you, I did not look over there. So I thought he was going to take Union. There we go. We both took the upset.
I know, which is bad. It's like on game day when they go across the board and pick the same team.
So next week when we're on here and it's 64-20 Union, that's why.
Yeah, Gate City can blame us. Because, of course, we have a lot to do with the outcome of the game. Like Nick Saban said, he's like, the crowd doesn't play a single snap in the game.
But you can get loud.
You can get loud, but they still don't play any snaps.
That's right. All right, so thanks to Apple Bagworks, attorney at law, Andrew Scruggs, and thanks to Old Town Barbershop, as always, letting us come in here and record. He was kind of upset with us for the last 2 weeks because we weren't here, but we're here now. So we thought we weren't going to be able, and he was like, no, you're getting in here today. So
we made it happen.
All right. Anything we need to end on?
Hidden Valley lost again. Bless their hearts. And honestly, like, if you want to keep up with 2A football that's happening on the other side of the state and things like that, keep up with Thomas Jefferson out of Richmond. They're the Vikings, and keep up with Armstrong. They're the two teams I think that are going to vie for the other side of the state championship game from that side of the state.
And if you're single A and you want to keep up with that, make sure you keep your eyes on East Side and Rye Cove, which is pretty easy right now with 2A because Rye Cove's taking on Lee. But those two could be your representatives going into state on the other side. And on the other side, you want to keep up with
Essex,
Alta Vista, and Riverheads. So, which I think Alta Vista had a big 2A win the other day. I don't remember who it was. I should have wrote it down, but it made the news. So we appreciate you all. But Tazewell is traveling to V High. So where are you going to go eat? Can't go to Mellow.
No, can't go to Mellow. It's painful. If I'm going to go eat, I always say Greens down in Bristol. If you don't want to go that far and go down into Tennessee, you can't miss going to Cootie Brown's. It's good food. It's good fun.
Yeah.
But there's also a couple little cool little spots there on State Street. Machiavelli's, if you're wanting pizza, Machiavelli's is a great pizza spot. It's on the far end, closer to the train tracks side of State Street. Machiavelli's, awesome pizza, can't beat it.
Is it on Main Street or is it?
It's just right off of Main Street. You go down State Street and kind of, once you get to almost to the very end, you kind of take a.
So did he just move into where the Angry Italian was?
Basically.
Okay. So if you know where Angry Italian used to be before it went to the McAdoo's building, which really messed them up, in my opinion, because they were great up until that point. Yeah, just go by the McAdoo's building. It's down on the right in a cubby hole. For me, you took mine. I was going to say Cooties because I love that place. Southern Craft Barbecue. So past the football field, you can see Cooties on your right, and you're right there on State Street. It sits on your left at the red light.
Yeah, it's really good.
They got some great food there too, so can't go wrong with either one of those. But as we stole it from the barter. If you like us, talk about us. If you don't, keep your mouth shut. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, go Vols.
Go Flames.